you staring at me?
Look, everybody, it's Amber.
Hi.
Howdy, folks. I'm Brian.
I'm Amber.
And here's some Reddit. So, I was just trying to creep Amber out. On a scale of 1 to 10, how creeped out were you?
I actually wasn't very creeped out.
And why weren't you very creeped out?
Because you do this enough. Like,
would you like to formally make a complaint to my creep out supervisor?
No, I mean, I'm actually fine because it wasn't that creepy. So, I've gotten acclimatized to this certain level of staring and whatnot.
Oh, well, on a scale of Casper to, I don't know, what's a scary ghost?
Oh gosh, like the ghost that possesses the Annabelle doll or something like that.
Yeah, on the scale of Casper to Annabelle, which ghosts? Where do I fall in the ghost in the creep scale for ghosts?
Definitely more on the Casper end of things.
I was like, "You're a regular Casper, Brian."
What can I say?
All right. Enough with your ghost nonsense, Amber. Where do you even come up with these things? Am I the jerk for no longer... We did that whole thing on the wrong... Sorry, so you guys already get a preview. We're not redoing it. You get a sneak peek. We're not redoing it. Am I the jerk for no longer making my husband sandwiches to take to work after discovering he was selling them? I'm a 33-year-old female, and my husband is a 37-year-old male, and he works at an advertising company. We're struggling a bit financially because we're saving up to purchase a new apartment. He is used to eating fast food, and it was costly. He had no problem spending money daily on fast food, and after doing the math, he spends more than $300 a month just on fast food. $20 daily. We live in an expensive area. I talked to him about it. He agreed that I make him sandwiches and he will take them to work. That way, he eats healthy and we spare money for rent. Everything was going on well. I noticed he wouldn't respond when I asked him whether he liked the sandwiches I made, but kept asking me to make more than 2 since he was very hungry. Yesterday, he came home with his friend and coworker. We sat down at the dinner table, and his friend brought up the sandwiches I make for my husband, and how delicious they are. I thanked him, and he said the price was a bit much. I was confused, and I asked him to explain, and he said my husband sells the sandwiches I make to his coworkers, and then goes and buys his own lunch from the restaurant. I was stunned. My husband denied it. I began arguing with him after his friend left. He said there was nothing wrong with it. I told him I will no longer be making him sandwiches if he sells them to buy fast food. He defended himself, calling this an overreaction since he's not spending any money on fast food, and said I was being unfair to start an argument over this. I just walked into the bedroom and stayed there, and then he said I owe him an apology for God knows what, and didn't think it was acceptable for me to lash out and say I won't make him sandwiches anymore. Well, I mean, he does work in an advertising firm, and he did advertise those sandwiches pretty good to get people to buy them.
Yeah, well, OP is definitely not the jerk here. I'm going to say he is profiting off of your labor, because you're the one putting the hard work in and making the sandwiches. He's just selling them.
Yeah, I don't think that there would be any problem if he was selling the sandwiches and, I don't know, basically informing his wife that he was doing it.
If they had made an agreement up front, there wouldn't be an issue. But the issue is she thinks she's making food for him.
Yeah.
She thinks he's eating healthy. And then he's turning around and selling the sandwiches that she's put her time and energy into making. Because she may not even want to make more than the 2 sandwiches, but he's been asking for more. And so she's been doing this because she cares about him.
Yeah, well, I mean, these have got to be pretty good sandwiches. I mean, I know I wouldn't spend $10 on a sandwich, but he has to be selling them for like $10 if he's spending $20 a day on fast food, right?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure how much, but...
And, I mean, on one hand, I can understand, the ethically gray area of what he's doing, but I don't necessarily think it's good, and I think that he should have been upfront with her about what he was doing.
Right. I think the fact that he didn't talk to her first is where he went wrong. It's because it's fine if they had an agreement. If he was like, I really like the fast food. Why can't he make the sandwiches himself?
Yeah.
I mean,
make the sandwiches yourself.
And then sell them.
But, I mean, another thing is, like, if he's wanting to buy fast food, and, I mean, people are willing to buy these sandwiches, and they're willing to buy them at a premium, it doesn't necessarily seem like a bad idea to, sell sandwiches as long as it isn't, that much of a problem. Again, like, I think really where he ran into some of the issues was, like, when she asked him how the sandwiches were, he dodged the question and didn't answer her honestly and said, oh, actually, I didn't eat the sandwich today. I sold it. And I think that that's where things kind of get ethically questionable. And I think that people should start, buying sandwiches from her personally.
Yeah, buy them for her directly and not from him.
Yeah. And I understand her wanting him to eat healthy and whatnot. And I guess probably what this probably feels like to her is a little bit of a betrayal in the respect that she thought he was enjoying the sandwiches and eating them. And instead, he chooses to eat the fast food over the food that she is making. Which, I mean, this is such a weird double sword because on one hand, it means that, like, her sandwiches are good enough to sell for basically $10 a piece, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he thinks her food isn't as good as fast food. So, I don't know. Maybe just maybe he should have talked to his friend ahead of time and told him not to say anything.
This is bad advice. We do not listen to Brian here. He's the one who's in the wrong.
Like, if you're gonna do shady stuff, make sure to have all your bases covered, people. I'm just kidding.
This is Brian's bad advice.
Don't cover your bases so that you get caught.
Yes.
It's tea time. What kind of tea do you got this time?
Water.
Crystal Pepsi?
Nope, just water.
I too have water. And I don't even have a nasty old tea bag sitting in there.
Yes, Brian has legit water today. Yeah. Our next story is, am I the jerk for walking away when my friends joked about fairy rings? For people who don't know what fairy rings are, they're rings, usually made of mushrooms, in fields. There's folklore attached to them that says that if a human steps into one, the fairies will take them away. I know this is not real, but I grew up with a very superstitious grandmother who would tell me this stuff all the time. As a kid, if she saw me walking toward one, she would literally yell for me to stop and change direction. As an adult, again, I know they are not real, but that doesn't mean I'm about to start walking through fairy rings willy-nilly. I live with my boyfriend and 2 friends, a couple, and we arranged to meet another couple for a hike. They tease me a lot for being superstitious, as there have been a few other times that it's come up. We were hiking, and I saw a fairy ring directly ahead. Again, I know they aren't real, but I just tilted a little to the left, so I went around. No one noticed. Then a few minutes later, there was another, and again I went around. Then this happened a 3rd time. At that point, my friend asked why I kept swerving away from the group. I was like, didn't notice. But my boyfriend realized and burst out laughing, telling them what I'm doing. They started laughing and joking and then began jumping in and out of the ring and stomping/kicking the mushrooms while teasing me about it. They were loud enough that a few people nearby were looking over, and they looked like total jerks. I told them to stop, but they didn't. I then started walking. We were on our way back, so I just kept going. They caught up with me a few minutes later, and 3 out of the 5 people I was with said I was being a brat and overreacting, making them feel bad and ruining a nice day out. I said that acting like jerks in public wasn't my idea of a good time, and they said I was being a jerk. The other 2 said the joke's over, let's just head back, and things went back to normal-ish. However, once we were back, my boyfriend rounded on me and echoed his earlier sentiments. He was one of the people who gave me heck, saying that I embarrassed him and was acting jerky over a joke, and I'm being overly superstitious and need to chill. I said he was being a jerk then, and he's being one now, and I'm sick of them teasing me, and they should have known when I wasn't laughing along that I didn't find it funny. He said they aren't mind readers, and I can't expect him to just know I don't find things funny, and I owe him and the others an apology for getting upset over a joke about something I take too seriously anyway. Am I the jerk? Update. This morning my boyfriend and friends had a series of bad luck. I made a joke about it and he lost his rag. We have now split up.
Well, interesting story. You know, the thing about jokes are that they're only funny if everyone's laughing. And, like, the thing is, like, sounds like something that their friends constantly tease her about, and that, you know, that they make a big deal about this person's superstitious behavior. And, you know, the thing is, like, it might be alright to tease someone a little bit about being superstitious, but not to the point where they're uncomfortable about it or doing this kind of stuff. Like, right. That was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah, there's a difference between teasing and that more like, this is more like bullying, harassing behavior, you know, they taking something that OP, because I'm a lot like OP, you know, I know that none of this stuff, like Ouija boards and stuff, are real, but I'm still not going to mess with them because, like, I'm a little superstitious. And so I would be upset if people started, like, whipping out an Ouija board and, like, oh, Amber, like, okay, yeah, you're going to call the ghost to our house, no thank you. So, you know, even if OP doesn't fully believe it, there's a part of her mind that's attached to the superstition. And it's not cool to basically, like, run all over her. And,
Yeah, it's not good to harass her at this point in time. And, like, again, I think it's funny that they actually ended up with this stint of bad luck.
Yeah.
And, you know, while fairy rings aren't responsible for their bad luck, it's still just interesting.
Yes, an interesting coincidence.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is that it doesn't hurt to be superstitious like this, and this isn't really any different than, like, a religious belief, and in the respect that some people believe things in religions that some people would say are superstitious, for instance. And, you know, there's a lot of different religions out there, and there's a lot of different belief systems, and not everyone would believe them or align well with them, but there's a difference between saying, I don't necessarily believe in what you believe in, and doing something like this.
Right,
you know?
I think you bring up a good point that OP is not hurting anyone by walking around fairy rings. Like, and so, where it's not, like, superstitions can be taken to an extreme, but, like, this is something that is so, like, she just walks a little bit away up from the path from the others. Like, there's nothing to it that's at all hurtful.
Yeah.
So...
And I like fairy rings a lot. I think fairy rings are cool whenever you see them. They're not a common thing around here. We've seen them a couple times, but not very often. And the way they're formed, actually, is if a mushroom grows in the center of in a field or something like that, when it's a kind of a calm day and they release their spores, they actually radiate out in a circle, and that's actually how the fairy rings get formed, as they grow up in, you know, this circle around an original mushroom. So they're really neat, and I like them a lot. And I have you know, there are some video games that I played when I was a little that you know, featured fairy rings and fairies. So it's a game called Quest for Glory. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's an old game at this point in time. So yeah.
And also, it's just kind of a jerky thing to just stomp mushrooms anyway.
Yeah,
like,
mushrooms are nice looking.
Leave nature, like, you're out in nature, enjoying nature, like...
Let's burn it down!
Yeah, like, so... But I think OP is fine here. I don't think there's anything wrong with being superstitious and not being happy when people try bullying you.
Alright, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my girlfriend I don't have time for chores? Throwaway for obvious reasons. Before you get mad, let me know, explain, and I apologize for the formatting since this is on my phone. I'm a 36-year-old male, and I was in the Army for several years. After I got out, I started community college to become an engineer. I'm currently working part-time at a job that requires physical work, and when I come home at noon, I do my 2 classes until 4-ish. They both meet every day for an hour and are pre-recorded videos since I can't attend classes during the day. It usually takes me longer to get through each video since I also take notes. Afterwards, I mainly do my homework because we have tons of homework. I'm always exhausted at the end of the day because of my job and the fact that I go to school. Here's the thing. Engineering classes are, like, really hard. Calculus, I don't have time to cook and clean around the apartment. My girlfriend, a 33-year-old female, on the other hand, works from home. She's a full-time PhD student, works part-time as a research assistant, and is working full-time, but does all of this from home. She has time on her hands, yet she keeps insisting on me helping her cook and clean around the apartment. I tell her I don't have time and I don't care for her to cook for me all the time. Just focus on herself. I can find my own food. But now she's upset because she feels like she puts in the effort in this relationship and the apartment to make it home for us. We both moved to the city when I was still in the army and does not live close to family members. Am I the jerk for telling her I don't have time for chores? I feel like her workload isn't as exhausting as mine, and it's only fair that I focus more on my classwork since I feel like I am behind because of my age. Meanwhile, she's already well into her career, but getting this PhD when she already has a good enough paying job. So, am I the jerk?
Yes. Resoundingly yes.
Well, I understand somewhat where this person is coming from. I mean, I know, I actually was a non-traditional college student, and, after getting out of the Navy, I went to college, and it was difficult, and I took engineering classes, and engineering classes are difficult. But I can also say from a person who went through a PhD program...
PhD programs are not a walk in the park.
That it was tremendously more difficult to do a PhD than it was to do my undergrad.
Yeah, and we were PhD students with a research assistant position, or a teaching assistant or research assistant position, and that was exhausting enough. But imagine having a full-time job. I mean, you kind of had a
I had a full-time job because I was also doing lab work, and maybe I wasn't doing physically demanding work. And I think he says, well, because I'm doing physically demanding work, I also feel like I'm exhausted. And that's the one part of this I can't speak to, but it still feels like a little bit of a cop-out.
Right, well, it feels like he feels like his stuff is so much harder than hers when she's working 2 jobs and also a full-time student.
Yeah.
So, I don't doubt that he is exhausted.
Yeah.
But I imagine that she is very exhausted as well. And I can see why she's frustrated that he's not putting in the effort.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say that his stuff isn't exhausting, because I'm sure it is.
It is. He probably has it really hard, and I'm not saying he doesn't.
But we had to make things work. We were exhausted all the time being graduate students, and you find ways to make things work.
Yeah. So, I do think he has some legitimate, gripes here to a degree, but she also has some very legitimate gripes here.
Yeah, and if she's the one who is doing all of the setup in the apartment and keeping things clean, it's his responsibility to make it home too. And so I can understand why she feels, she's doing everything. If he's I can't do anything.
Yeah. At least put in effort, make a chore schedule, do the things that you can do, and, go from there and, work on it. Life is exhausting, so sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I have no idea what her job is or what she's studying, but I think what frustrates me the most about this letter is, he's an undergrad and she's a PhD student, and he's assuming that what he's doing is so much more challenging than her. Yeah. And I get calculus is hard for a lot of people, but that's, a first-year class for a lot of students. So he's acting this introductory coursework is more challenging than her doctoral work.
Yeah.
And treating everything she does like, or in her job, whatever she does full time, like it's not real work because it's from home.
Yeah.
And it's not physically demanding.
Exactly. And that is the big issue. I think you raise a lot of good points here, is that he's treating his work so much more importantly than her stuff. And part of the reason why he writes it off is like, oh, she already has a good paying job, so why does she need this education too? And, PhDs aren't about earning extra money at the end of the day. It's about, there's a lot to it that's kind of similar to like someone who might try doing something very challenging, like, training for a marathon, for instance, or, preparing for climbing for Mount Everest. Those things aren't inherently going to make you earn more money or do things for you, but they're a challenge in their own right, and they're a challenge in their own respect. And sometimes people feel like they want to do these things for the extra challenge. And so whether or not she needs the money isn't really an issue here. This is something that she wants to do, and he should be supporting her in the best way that he can. And
she's just as entitled to earning a degree as he is. Like, I understand it's frustrating to him that he doesn't have his degree yet, but he shouldn't be, like, demeaning her degree because she doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more to life than having a high-paying job.
Exactly. All right, folks. That's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. Oh, I almost forgot. Happy Friday Junior.
Oh, yes, Happy Friday Junior.
I remember 2 weeks in a row.
Yes.
I was, like, in the middle of a thought. I was like, wait. I have to say Happy Friday Junior. So yeah, Happy Friday Junior. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving us a like. If you didn't, consider giving us a dislike. Amber's video came out on Wednesday, so if you haven't checked that out yet, feel free to.
We were dying from the COVID vaccine then.
Yeah, we were dying from the COVID vaccine then. We recorded it over the weekend, so it wasn't that we recovered that fast now. So, well, yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.